Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us here at the Weather Channel again. We have a lot more active tropics to talk about today. This storm watch is brought to you by Home Depot, and we'll get right to the hurricane situation. This is what we expect over 100 years. You know, the peak of the season is right at the beginning of September, and of course it's been a pretty tranquil pattern over the last 6 weeks or so, but not anymore. We have had some major developments over the last couple of days. The first one is this. As you know, we've been talking about an area of disturbed weather down the Bay of Campeche that moved across the Yucatan Peninsula, and that was named a tropical depression yesterday by the National Hurricane Center. It doesn't have any real, it's not speeding to any one location. It's kind of meandering about the Bay of Campeche, and it's centered at 19.9 north, 93.8 west, 300 miles southeast of Tampico, Mexico, winds 35. And as you can see, with 2 mile per hour movement, it's just almost stationary or quasi-stationary. 1,007 millibars. And reconnaissance aircraft, the Air Force Reserve hurricane hunters, are going out to investigate this later this morning. They'll have a better fix on it. But right now, as you can see, convection has been on the increase. Convection also becoming more concentric, and it definitely is a strengthening tropical depression, maybe a tropical storm right now. But we'll know more when the hurricane hunters investigate the system. Meanwhile, it was earlier being sheared a little bit by an upper-level low-pressure system that's been sitting over here over the western Gulf of Mexico. And this low is moving further to the west, and it'll become less of an influence on this tropical depression today. We're going to be watching that. That's system number one. And as we take a look a little further out, we've got first convection firing to the south of Cuba and Hispaniola, but tropical storm formation not likely here. There's been kind of an elongated tropical wave here that's been moving through the islands. But of more note, off the African coast, as we noted yesterday, we had a significant area of disturbed weather, and this has become tropical depression number 4. It's centered at 14.0 north, 21.3 west, just 155 miles east-southeast of the Cape Verde Islands, 35 mile per hour winds. It's moving west at a pretty good rate, 15 miles per hour, and it's at 1,003 millibars. Take a look at this thing now. Convection holding together quite well. Low pressure center. Out ahead of it, the subsidence has become much less than what we had earlier over the last 3 or 4 weeks, actually. As you can note by all of these clouds out there, there's more moisture in the air. The conditions out here are favorable for the continued strengthening of this tropical depression. We'll have more on that too with the latest advisories when they come out. Currently, it's thought I had the advisory in there. We did, just outside the Cape Verde Islands. Now this is Hurricane Dora out in the eastern Pacific. This is the 180-degree mark, which is the date line. When Dora gets over the date line, it will become a typhoon. And it is hurricane. It is a Category 1 on the Saffir-Simpson scale. Could hold together all the way across the Pacific. Some do. But this will be, once it crosses the date line, it will no longer have advisories on it because it'll be taken over by the Joint Typhoon Center, which used to be in Guam. Now it's in Honolulu. But those will be the last advisories for Dora. Meanwhile, we have Africa somehow appeared once more. Let's get Africa off the screen right now and get back to the eastern Pacific. Somehow this picture just jumped in. Sometimes that happens. This is another area of disturbed weather, and that area of disturbed weather became a tropical storm yesterday. It's Tropical Storm Fernanda. Tropical Storm Fernanda is 860 miles west-southwest of Cabo San Lucas.
It's quiet, calm, and dry in the northeast. Is beneficial rain on the way? Find out where moisture is moving in and where the heat is starting to soar. Get your forecast ahead on Weather Center.
This program was sponsored by Home Depot, where low prices are just the beginning.
Premium cut lumber. Wood products with fewer gouges and knots, less bark, warping, and twisting.
Thursday morning. I'm meteorologist Lisa Moser. It's 10 minutes till the top of the hour. This edition of Storm Watch is brought to you by American Power Conversion. Well, our hurricane expert says things are getting pretty busy in the Atlantic. Here's John Hope.
They are indeed. Lisa, thank you very much. After a very quiet July and most of June, the tropics have become more active. We have two features we want to talk to you about. One is right down here in the Gulf of Mexico in the Bay of Campeche, and the other one, a tropical depression that's just come off the coast of Africa. So we'll go ahead and talk now about each one of these for you and show you what the latest information is. Now, this particular tropical depression here, that information is not quite updated there. It's actually stationary now. It's centered at 19.6, 94.6, and that's about 110 miles to the east-northeast of Veracruz, Mexico, and it's not moving very much, and it doesn't appear that it is going to move very much, and this causes us a bit of concern because had it continued to move west-northwest and move into Mexico, it would immediately weaken, but now it looks as if it's going to stay out over the water for some time, and long enough, we think, for this to get stronger, and if it stays out there long enough, we might eventually have to be concerned about some other areas of the Gulf. It's really too early to speculate on those right now. Here's a satellite picture this morning, just a couple of pictures in there, and the center of circulation is down here sort of on the southeastern edge of all this. We'll show you another picture, an infrared picture, and we can see it a little better. Right down in here is where the circulation center is. There's a reconnaissance aircraft in the area now checking it out. The winds are getting stronger than they were. It is very, very near being a tropical storm, and it could be upgraded to a tropical storm on the next regular advisory, which will be about 4 o'clock this afternoon, Central Daylight Time. We'll certainly keep you posted on that. Now, the other one is out here, Tropical Depression 4, far, far out in the Atlantic Ocean, off the coast of Africa, 155 miles east-southeast of the Cape Verde Islands, moving toward the west at 15. That one, too, is on the verge of being a tropical storm. It's almost strong enough right now for it to be considered a tropical storm. Here's some latest picture there, moving on toward the west now. And it's too early, of course, to say where this might eventually go, but once a hurricane is as far north as this one is, when it's this far east, most of them tend to curve a little bit before they get to the Caribbean Sea, so we don't want to alert any islands around the Caribbean yet. It might well go north of there. We hope that'll be the case, but we'll have a lot of time to watch it as time goes by. As far as the rest of the ocean is concerned, we don't really have anything out there that is of any immediate urgency. This is, well, I wanted to show you the graph there to show you that we weren't surprised to have this kind of activity because we're now approaching the very peak of the hurricane season. Apart from that, in the Atlantic, we have a tropical wave centered now south of Puerto Rico, but that isn't showing any signs of any organization, and we don't think it will as long as it's in that part of the Caribbean. Farther out in the ocean, we have a little vortex out about the middle, but it doesn't have any showers or thunderstorms anywhere near the center of it, so we're not going to have to worry any about that. Still have a couple of storms to talk about in the Pacific. This is Dora, well west now of the Hawaiian Islands, not going to affect anybody. There's the latest satellite picture. And then we have one more storm, Fernanda, which is getting a bit stronger, winds 50 miles an hour, and we think there's a good chance that this might be in a hurricane another day or so as it continues to move away from land. That's the tropics. Now back to Lisa.
Okay, John Hope, finally getting kind of busy over there, John. We're going to be looking at, if we go to another source, a couple of systems back home. We have a big ridge out towards the plains, a frontal boundary, bringing rain showers to the drought-stricken Ohio and mid-Atlantic area, but very little rain as far as tabulation goes. We'll be telling you about that. We also have this trough that extends from a low-pressure area over the Carolinas. Now, the coastal area of the Carolinas is likely to see some very significant rain showers and a few thunderstorms today. We are also looking forward to seeing any rain around the Dallas area, but the triple-digit heat continues. That's a definite. We'll have the details next. Weather Center.
Coming up on Weather Center, the drought lingers on in the east, but moisture is now moving that way. We'll tell you where it's soggy and where it's soaked. Your Thursday forecast is just ahead.
This program was sponsored by American Power Conversion, legendary reliability.
Power problems affect you. They can attack your PC up to 120 times per month and will strike without warning. APC's legendary reliability
afternoon to you. Thanks for joining us here for Storm Watch. I'll have a look at thunderstorms around the country in just a second. Right now, though, we have a couple of very important features, and John Hope, our tropical weather expert's here to tell us all about those.
Well, thank you, Rich, and we do have a couple of features we want to tell you about right away. One is in the Gulf of Mexico, the Bay of Campeche, and the other one is about as far away to get on this map anyway, right off the coast of Africa. So we'll sort of take these up for you one by one. This is the latest information we have on Tropical Depression 3. At that time, it was centered 110 miles to the east-northeast of Veracruz, Mexico. Winds 35 miles an hour. It was stationary. It wasn't moving at all. And the estimated, measured pressure was 1,008 millibars. There is a reconnaissance aircraft down there. Evaluating the pictures this afternoon, though, it does appear to us, and reconnaissance sort of verifies that it is getting a little bit organized. We're seeing more of a distinctive circulation center than we saw before. So this is right on the verge of being a tropical storm, and maybe upgraded to a tropical storm soon, perhaps even later today. And again, there's not going to be very much movement, and what there is for the next day or so, we think will be a kind of a drift off toward the west-northwest, which means that it's going to sit out over the Gulf and have an opportunity, I think, to get a little bit stronger. And as long as it's over open water, we think that it will strengthen. If it would hang around down there very long, then we would have to watch it very carefully, perhaps for some of the rest of the Gulf, but it's too early to really speculate on that yet. Now, the other storm way out in the other end of the ocean, that's centered at 14-1, 22-1, 110 miles to the southeast of the Cape Verde Islands, moving toward the west at 12. And here we can show you the latest satellite picture. Now, what we believe is going to happen here is that we expect to see this move just about straight toward the west for a couple days, and then maybe about the third day begin to edge a little bit more toward the north. We're hopeful when and if it does that, as we think it will, that it will go north of the Caribbean islands, but it's a bit too early to say that for sure. So we think that people in this part of the world ought to watch this rather carefully as it moves on to the west. Well, this increase in activity is about what we'd expect according to climatology. We're in the very steep part of the curve right here now, and as you know, it peaks out on the 10th of September. So it's more likely to be busy now the next few weeks than any other time during the summer. Out in the eastern Atlantic, we have a vortex there, but it doesn't have any showers and thunderstorms near the center, so certainly nothing to worry about there. And in the Caribbean Sea itself, we have a weak tropical wave moving toward the west. No danger of any development where it is, but when it gets farther north into the western Caribbean a couple days from now, it might have a better chance. We still have Dora. This is about to last. We're going to hear from Dora. It's going to cross the international date line. It'll be classified then as a typhoon. Just barely hanging on as a hurricane, top wind 75 miles an hour. Here's the latest satellite picture, and you can see it drifting off to the west. Now we have another tropical storm in the eastern Pacific. This is Fernanda, centered some 895 miles to the west-southwest of Cabo San Lucas. Winds are coming up on that, 65 miles an hour, and that is very close to being a hurricane. Very likely will be a hurricane, we believe, during the next 12 hours or so as it moves away from Mexico. So that's the tropics for this time. Now let's get back to Rich. Rich?
All right, John, let's head back to the United States. And I want to show radar briefly, and let's go on into Kentucky. We do have a tornado warning in Rowan County. It's with this cell right here, and it looks like the picture has gone away, unfortunately. But I wanted to tell you in southern Rowan County, tornado warning. There was a radar-indicated tornado, Doppler radar, and that was 3 miles southeast of Farmers, or about 6 miles southwest of Moorhead. This potential severe thunderstorm with a tornado moving east at 40 miles per hour. So that's over in southern Rowan County, over in northeastern Kentucky. More about this in a minute. Severe weather threat today, of course, Kentucky, areas of southern Ohio, right back on into Tennessee. The southeast, some storms building up, as well as areas of the Rockies, isolated strong thunderstorms. Coming up next, more about the storms in Kentucky and Florida. We'll have your complete forecast, too.
Coming up on Weather Center, the drought lingers on in the east, but moisture is now moving that way. We'll tell you where it's soggy and where it's soaked. Your Thursday forecast is just ahead.
I'm a student, and I do a lot of research on the web. So what I wanted, what I really had to have, was a powerful desktop computer. Then someone told me about Dell. I got on the internet. Dell built a desktop just for me. This direct way actually costs less. Okay, so I don't always use it for research.
Order a Dell Dimension desktop during the Dell School Sensation Sweepstakes, and you could win 2 new computers over the next 4 years, plus $10,000 for tuition. This Dimension desktop comes with an Intel Celeron processor at 400 megahertz. Everything you see here. Plus, DellNet Internet access for 1 year and Dell's 24-hour tech support. All for only $959. Visit our website by September 25th and order your Dell Dimension with Intel Celeron processor, and you'll be entered into our sweepstakes. There's one winner every day for 42 days.
That's cool.
Be direct. Dell.
When your great-great-great-grandfather is William Clark of the Lewis and Clark expedition, you're really...
Time now for Storm Watch, brought to you by APC. And historically, at this time of the year, things really start to heat up in the Atlantic hurricane season. And right on cue, we have 2 new features to talk about: a tropical storm in the Gulf and a tropical depression in the Atlantic. And with more on that, here is our tropical weather expert, Dr. Steve Lyons.
Well, thanks, Carl, and he is right. We do have a couple systems to look at, and let's look at our overall favorable, unfavorable, and neutral areas for development across the Atlantic. They pretty much dictate where our 2 features are. First of all, our favorable for development is right where a tropical storm is. That's Tropical Storm Bret. Was a tropical depression earlier today. The other one is a neutral area out here, and that's tropical depression out here just to the southeast of the Cape Verde Islands. Well, let's go and see what we've got for Tropical Storm Bret. This is as of 4 p.m. Central Daylight Time, 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, 19.9 north, 94.7 west, 110 miles east-southeast of Veracruz, Mexico. Winds are up to 40 miles per hour. Keep in mind, when it was a tropical depression, they were 35 miles per hour, so a 5-mile-per-hour change is not any significant change relative to wind damage, but nevertheless it's intensifying, and it's drifting very slowly to the northwest at 2 miles per hour, and that slow motion is very important here. Pressure 1,006 millibars. Well, as we look at the satellite imagery and see why we see a little improvement in the overall favorable area for development, we can see here the circulation center is pretty well defined now. Last night it was a little harder to find. The center is roughly right in here. And you can see it drifting very, very slowly to the northwest. But we have an upper level low there that was causing some shear last night. And when we back out and look at the overall Gulf of Mexico here, here's our circulation center down in here. That upper level low, which is right here, moving right over Brownsville now, is pulling off to the southwest quickly as we expected, and an upper level anticyclone is building over the system. That's more favorable for development, but at the same time, that means the upper level wind flow and mid-level wind flow is weaker. And so the system has slowed way down. So we're going to have a long wait to see what happens on this system. We do expect slow but steady intensification with a continued drift to the northwest toward the Mexican coast. And right now, currently, it appears to be primarily a rain event for northern Mexico. However, other things can happen when the system is sitting out there a long time. We'll have to wait and see. Now, elsewhere in the Caribbean Sea, we have an area of showers in the southwestern portion of the Caribbean, not developing tonight, but nevertheless under sort of a neutral area for development. Showers moving through the windwards in Puerto Rico here, but nothing developing. The real other interest is our Tropical Depression 4, which is out near the Cape Verde Islands here, and as of 5 p.m. Atlantic Standard Time, 14 north, 22.8 west. It's 85 miles southeast of Cape Verde. Winds are 35 miles per hour. It's moving to the west at 9. Pressure 1,003, and of course that pressure is estimated from satellite imagery. There are no planes flying out there. Of course, if it did become a storm, it'd be Tropical Storm Cindy, and here it is here, and you can see that the thunderstorm activity is starting to decay a little bit. With the other systems we see out here, they've decayed as well. So if this system does develop, it will do so rather slowly, and it's still a long way from the Windward Islands, so we have plenty of time to watch it. Now, out in the eastern Pacific, we have Tropical Storm Fernanda. It's 65 miles per hour, still moving to the west-northwest at 12, and it's a rather small system right here, and expected not to bring much surf to Southern California. It's so small. But nevertheless, it's a marine hazard, and that's it for the tropics this hour. Now let's get back to Carl.
Dr. Steve Lyons, thanks very much for that report. Let's talk about the Midwest here. We do have some scattered showers and thunder showers really into the southern lakes and the Ohio Valley and on into the southern Appalachians, and then more action here into the southeast. Here's a closer look at what's going on. We've got a fairly strong upper level system right here, and with that some pretty big thunderstorms. Right now just light rain into Detroit and Cleveland, but a little farther to the south, some strong storms through much of Kentucky and on into West Virginia. These are all racing along towards the east, and you could certainly expect to see some heavy rain in spots along with frequent lightning, gusty winds, and possibly some small hail. Scattered showers and thunder showers continue into the southeast here. In fact, it's been a very active day in parts of South Carolina, just to the north and to the west of Myrtle Beach. Big thunderstorms right here. We'll have more details about these storms coming up in just a few minutes on Weather Center.
Searing heat cuts across the south as Dallas moves towards 23 straight days of triple-digit heat, and rainy weather could help dampen the drought. Get your expert forecast ahead on Weather Center.
This program was sponsored by American Power Conversion, legendary reliability.
Power problems affect you. They can attack your PC up to 120 times per month and will strike without warning. APC's legendary reliability combines world-class surge suppression with instant battery backup to bring uninterruptible power to your desktop. To find out more about protecting your PC, visit www.iwantapc.com.
Home Depot, and typically at this time of the year we see a sharp increase in activity in the Atlantic Basin, and that is exactly what has happened. We now have two systems, a tropical storm and a tropical depression, and with more on that now, our tropical weather expert, Dr. Steve Lyons.
Well, thanks, Carl. And Carl is right on cue. The tropics have become active. The climatology of the large scale is very, very powerful forecast tool in the long range. We have two systems, our tropical storm here in the very southern Gulf of Mexico, and also a tropical depression out here in the far eastern Atlantic Ocean. Now let's go first to our tropical storm. That's Bret, and as of 7 p.m. Central Daylight Time, the position 19.9 north, 94.7 west, about 110 miles east-southeast of Veracruz, Mexico. And by the way, Veracruz, the last observation, winds about 25 to 30 miles an hour along the coast, so already fairly windy there. Now the maximum winds are about 40 miles per hour, and those have been observed in the northern portion of the tropical storm, up and through here, not on the eastern, southern, or western side of the storm. Maximum winds on the northern side only. And right now it looks like it's almost stationary. It's not moving too much. The pressure has fallen based on the reconnaissance, the Air Force reserves out there, at a measured 1,000 millibar pressure. Now there are tropical storm warnings up. That means tropical storm force winds are likely within 24 hours, and of course we just mentioned 25 to 30 mile an hour winds right in here. And as the system creeps very slowly, as anticipated, to the west-northwest, those tropical storm force winds may encroach on the coast. And also, the system is anticipated to intensify a little bit, still remain a storm, but intensify a little bit, and that's another reason why we may see those storm winds come up along the coast there. Now here's a look at the latest image here, and the circulation center is roughly right in through here. Now, it doesn't look all that impressive on satellite imagery, and last night it did the same thing. A lot of the deep thunderstorm activity started to go away a little bit, but it came back early in the morning and continued to develop through the day. We'll monitor that closely tonight because the impact associated with this system is primarily right now a rain event. In other words, if we look at our impact potential along the Mexican coast anyway, the wind impact is relatively low. The winds are not all that strong to produce major damage. The surge impact also is relatively low due to the coastal bathymetry and the wind strength. Now, the wave impact could be significant when we get some beach erosion, but the big impact right now is the potential for heavy rain with the system moving as slow as it is right now. You can see here on the large scale, the environment overall is getting a little more favorable with this upper anticyclone over the top of the circulation. We'll keep you advised of that and what the hurricane reconnaissance gives us as we go hour by hour tonight. The rest of the Caribbean relatively quiet tonight, an anticyclone over the southwest with showers. The rest of the Caribbean rather uneventful. We go out far out into the eastern Atlantic is where we have Tropical Depression 4. Present position is 14 north, 22.8 west, and the winds are 35 miles an hour moving west at 9. Now, the good news about this is that it's already relatively far north, so it's